Number 2, I had read an article recently about the advantages of subdirectories for link juice over subdomains. The following link is, guys, we need to probably create a, somebody wants to make a note of this, a frequently asked question about this, because we get this question a lot. Okay, yes, there are subdomain folders, apparently through a lot of testing, not so much my own, but from other people's testing. I do understand that there's supposed to be a slight SEO advantage of doing multiple sites in subdirectories as opposed to on subdomains, but we have repeatedly, or we've held our position on this for many years now, which is that subdomains, in my opinion, is a superior method. There may be a slight SEO benefit to doing subdirectories over subdomains. That's fine. I get that. The problem with that is every single site that's in a subdirectory is subordinate to the root domain, right? Which means that if the root domain catches a penalty, or if any of the subordinate domain sites in the subfolders or subdirectories catch a penalty, it will penalize the entire domain and all of the other sibling subdirectories. Does that make sense? So the problem is it's a penalty that would be leveled to basically the root, which would damage everything, right? It would be applied to everything domain wide. However, if you do a subdirectory, or excuse me, a subdomain, then in Google's eyes, each subdomain site is considered a separate entity, right? Like a separate website. And so when I talk about using subdomains, it's a way to offer or provide a level of protection for every individual site. The trick with that is to make sure that you keep the root clean and don't do anything spammy to the root, because just as we talked about with the subdirectories, if the root was to catch a penalty, or any of the subdirectories catch a penalty, it would apply to the root and therefore tank all the rest of the sites. If you catch a penalty on the root domain with subdomain sites, all the subdomain sites will be affected as well, because it is a domain-wide penalty. But if you get a penalty on a subdomain site, then it only applies to that subdomain. Your root would still remain intact, and your other sibling subdomains would also remain untouched, unaffected. So there's a reason why we do it that way, and it's to mitigate risk, to reduce potential catastrophic, failure of all your sites if you were to catch a penalty. That's why we do it that way. Okay. I don't suspect you guys have anything to add to that, do you?
No, you nailed it.
All right, cool. Great question, though, AJ. That was a really good question. We get that often, but guys, like I said, we should probably just make a frequently asked question out of that one.